Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really diving into a book that's just, well, it's become a global phenomenon. Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist. You probably know it or have heard of it. It sold, over 150 million copies, translated into more than 80 languages. Just huge.
It's staggering, really.
But for this deep dive, we're not just, recapping the plot. Our mission here is to pull out the core insights, the really impactful stuff, from a detailed book review we've been looking at.
Right.
We want to understand why. Why does this book, it's only about 190 pages, right? First published way back in '88. Why does it still hit so hard for so many people?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the story itself, it's deceptively simple on the surface. It follows Santiago. He's this young shepherd boy in Andalusia.
Okay.
And he keeps having this dream about treasure hidden near the pyramids in Egypt. So he actually decides to go for it, to chase the dream.
Just up and goes.
Pretty much. And what's really captivating and what our review really zeroes in on is how this physical journey across deserts and everything, it slowly turns into something much, much deeper.
Okay, so not just about finding gold then.
Exactly. It becomes a journey to discover the real treasure, which the book suggests is understanding the meaning of life, your own destiny, and this thing Coelho calls the soul of the universe.
The soul of the universe. That sounds pretty profound.
It is. It's a central concept.
And that idea, discovering something beyond the obvious, it feels key. Our sources, this review, points to 5 core themes that really explain the book's power in Santiago's transformation. So where should we start? What's the first big takeaway?
Well, the review really highlights following your personal legend as the cornerstone, the foundational idea.
Personal legend, okay.
Yeah, and it's not just, follow your dreams in a general sense. It's more specific. It's about discovering this unique purpose, this destiny that you and only you were born to fulfill.
Like a calling.
Exactly like a calling. The book really pushes this idea through Santiago's early choices and, frankly, his struggles, that you need to listen to your heart, really listen, and find the courage to take the risks that path requires. It's about alignment, not just ambition.
I like that. Alignment. So it's innate, something you uncover rather than just invent.
That's the feeling, yeah.
Okay, so Santiago starts on this path, listening to his heart. And then another huge theme pops up, one that feels incredibly, optimistic. The idea that the universe conspires.
Yes, the famous quote.
Right. When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it.
How does our review unpack that? Does it give examples of how Santiago sees this conspiracy in action?
It does. This is where the concept of omens really comes into play, according to the review. These aren't just random coincidences happening to Santiago.
Okay.
They're seen as specific signals, sometimes really subtle ones, from the universe guiding him. Things like, the way birds fly, or a conversation he overhears, or someone he meets seemingly by chance. So he has to learn to read the signs.
Precisely. He learns to interpret them, to trust his intuition, even when things look confusing or the path seems blocked. The review stresses it's not like stage magic, but more about developing this deep awareness, being open to these unseen forces that seem to respond when you have real faith and intention. It's basically saying, pay attention to the world around you.
Pay attention. And that links perfectly to the third thing, doesn't it? This idea of spiritual awakening.
Absolutely.
Listening to your heart, seeing the omens. It connects to this mystical idea of the soul of the world that links everything together. Our sources make a point of saying it's deeply spiritual, but not tied to one specific religion. How does the review explain that?
What's really interesting is how the review describes the soul of the world. It's not just some vague, floaty spiritual concept. It's presented as the collective consciousness, the actual energy of everything that exists.
Wow.
And it's this connection that allows Santiago eventually to communicate with the desert, the wind, even the sun. It suggests this profound interconnectedness.
So nature isn't just a backdrop.
Not at all. It's an active participant. It responds to your will, your belief, especially when you're genuinely pursuing your personal legend. It's about finding this unity, this sense of oneness with everything, and tapping into a kind of wisdom that goes beyond, traditional religious structures.
That makes the journey sound like the real teacher, which, hey, brings us neatly to the fourth big insight our review flagged. The journey is the treasure.
Classic.
Santiago starts off looking for actual gold, literal treasure.
Yeah.
But the real payoff, the book argues, is the wisdom, the love, the self-discovery along the way. How does the book convince you of that? What experiences does he have?
Well, the review really hits this point hard. It's not just about getting to the pyramids. It's about the transformation during the travel, during the quest. Santiago faces massive setbacks. He gets robbed. He has to work mundane jobs. He learns from different cultures. He experiences love with Fatima.
Ah, yes, Fatima.
And he constantly battles his own fears and doubts. But each challenge, the book suggests, isn't just an obstacle. It's an opportunity, a lesson.
So the struggle is part of the reward.
In a very real sense, yes. It's through overcoming these things, through the people he meets and the choices he makes, that he builds wisdom, self-knowledge, resilience. The review argues these intangible rewards, self-mastery, inner peace, become far more valuable than any pile of gold. The gold almost becomes just a symbol for the inner worth he's built.
That makes a lot of sense. Because a journey like that, it's definitely not going to be easy. There are internal battles, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is our final theme.
Yeah.
Overcoming fear and doubt. The book is pretty clear that fear, especially the fear of failure, is maybe the single biggest thing stopping people. How does the review talk about how The Alchemist tackles this? How does it encourage you to be resilient?
Yeah, the review points out that Santiago isn't portrayed as some fearless hero from the start. Not at all. He has moments of really deep doubt, fear, even wanting to give up.
That makes him relatable.
Totally. But the book uses these moments to teach a key lesson, one often quoted. The fear of suffering is often worse than the suffering itself.
Powerful.
It emphasizes that real courage isn't about not feeling fear. It's about acting despite the fear. Santiago keeps going, he perseveres, and through that, the story builds this sense of faith in your own inner strength. The idea is that every setback, every failure, is really just a lesson moving you closer to your destiny, your personal legend.
You can really see why this book connects with so many people on such a deep level. It's just packed with those lines that stick with you, like the one you mentioned, or there is only one thing that makes a dream impossible to achieve.
Yeah.
The fear of failure. Just, wow.
Yeah, they're very quotable, very memorable lines. They resonate.
But we should be balanced here. The review we looked at and general reception acknowledges it's not for everyone, right? Some find it a bit simplistic, idealistic.
That's a fair point, and the review does touch on that. If you're someone who prefers, say, really complex plots, deep character psychologies in the traditional novel sense, or maybe gritty realism, then The Alchemist might feel a little too straightforward, maybe even naive.
Also, if you don't like allegories or mystical stuff.
Exactly. If that style isn't your cup of tea, it might not land as well. But it's interesting, the review notes that even critics who find it simplistic often have to admit it has this undeniable emotional pull, this motivational power that's hard to ignore.
What is it specifically that makes some see it as simplistic? Is it the fable-like style? The directness of the messages?
I think, according to the review, it's largely that directness in the allegorical structure. It's both its greatest strength for many and its potential weakness for others.
Yeah, so?
Well, compared to a dense, multi-layered novel with intricate subplots and morally gray characters, The Alchemist is quite streamlined. It doesn't spend ages on detailed world building or complex psychological back and forth in the way some literary fiction does.
It uses the story to deliver the philosophy.
Precisely. It's a fable designed to deliver its philosophical points clearly, cleanly. And that directness, which feels so empowering and clear to millions, can strike some readers as, well, maybe a bit preachy or overly optimistic if they're looking for more nuance or ambiguity in their fiction.
That's fascinating. A real your mileage may vary situation, but with undeniable impact nonetheless.
Definitely.
Which kind of brings us to the big question for you listening at home.
Yeah.
So maybe think about as we've explored this. How does a book that's basically called a life philosophy disguised as a story, how does it manage to inspire so many people to stop, think, and ask really fundamental questions about their own lives, their own purpose, even with those criticisms?
So as we start to wrap up this deep dive, we hope walking through Santiago's journey in The Alchemist has maybe given you a fresh look at how his quest really highlights finding that true wealth, the wisdom, the love, the self-realization. It just pounds home that idea of how crucial it is to figure out and then actually pursue your own personal legend.
Yeah, and just to echo those core messages that our review really brought out so clearly, that idea, that the universe is actually trying to help you.
Right.
The incredible wisdom you can find just by listening to your own heart, and honestly, the sheer guts it takes to face down your fears. It's easy to see why the sources rate it so highly, calling it almost an essential life philosophy. And It really does speak to such a broad range of people, doesn't it? We mentioned teenagers maybe looking for direction, adults feeling a bit lost or stuck, entrepreneurs starting out, dreamers, anyone on a spiritual path, or just curious about personal growth. If any of that sounds like you, then hopefully the insights we've unpacked today really resonate.
Absolutely. And maybe, as a final thought to take away and just sort of mull over, we can leave you with those two really potent questions the book implicitly asks. The ones our reviews suggested readers really grapple with.
Okay.
First, am I truly living my personal legend right now? And second, have I stopped listening to my heart?
Oh, wow. Those are, those are big questions worth sitting with.
Definitely.
So maybe consider how those questions land for you in your own life. We really encourage you to reflect on what we've talked about today. And perhaps, if you haven't already, or maybe even if you have, to start your own journey with The Alchemist.